Today I'm going to tell you about two of my favorite things, Macaronic Motets and Battenburg cake. On the face of it, they're not related at all. One is a type of music, while the other is a type of food. One sounds Italian but is really French, the other sounds German but is really British. Wait a minute, maybe deceptive names are the first thing they have in common. So where did Battenburg cake come from? The most popular theory is that it was created for the 1884 wedding of Prince Louis of Battenburg and Princess Victoria of Hesse, a granddaughter of Britain's Queen Victoria. There's a lot of evidence against this theory, but it leaves the puzzle of why this cake is called Battenburg if not related to the Battenburg family. British food historian Ivan Day has tracked down some early recipes for Battenburg cake from the 1890s. It also went by the name of Neapolitan roll and domino cake. As you can see from these photos, they all had the checkerboard pattern that makes this cake stand out. Some had 9 squares, and later cakes even had 25. So here's how to make a Battenburg cake. You start with a cake batter that will naturally end up yellow due to the eggs and butter. After mixing the batter, you divide it into 2 bowls. You can either color the second bowl pink with food coloring, or you can do what I do and color it with raspberry syrup. I add lemon extract to the first bowl, which will remain yellow. Bake the cakes and let them cool. Then you cut them into equal rectangular slices. Once they're cool, you make a glaze by simmering apricot jam with lemon juice and water, then straining any fruit bits out. This is your glue. You stack the cake rectangles into an alternating pattern and glue them together with the glaze. For the final touch, you roll almond paste into a rectangle. Brush the almond paste with the apricot glaze, then lay the cake upside down on top of it. Press the almond paste smoothly around the cake. Turn the cake over so that the seam is on the bottom, and decorate the top by indenting the almond paste with your fingertips. Here's what you get when you slice into the cake. It looked a little bland on the outside, but it's very exciting on the inside. It has a complex taste because it blends together the flavors of lemon, raspberry, apricot, and almond. You don't really taste them separately. It just tastes like Battenburg cake, and it's so good. I never see this cake anywhere in Michigan, so we always have to make it ourselves. I was thrilled to find it at a Scottish festival in Georgia one year, slices piled high at the Daughters of the British Empire bake sale table. So how is a piece of cake like a piece of music? Let's turn now to Macaronic Motets. Macaronic always sounded to me like macaroni, although someone recently pointed out that it also sounds like macaron. What macaronic actually means in this context is bilingual, not in the sense of knowing 2 languages, but rather speaking 2 languages at the same time. Here's a little history of these macaronic motets. A motet is a form of polyphonic song that began around 1220 in Paris. Yes, the first part of the 13th century, 800 years ago. Polyphonic means independent musical voices. For most of their history, motets were sacred. But that was a bit wobbly at the beginning. Some were secular, and some were between secular and sacred. The macaronic motets were in between. They have 3 separate voices. The bottom voice, called the tenor, sings several notes, but only a few syllables of text. The middle voice sings a religious text in Latin, and the top voice sings a non-religious text in French. 3 voices, 2 different languages. There are actually very few macaronic motets that survive, and you can find them in just 4 main manuscript sources. My favorite source is the Montpellier manuscript, which is held at the Inter-University Library in Montpellier, France, thus its name. It's made up of 400 pages of 750-year-old parchment bound together. The manuscript sections were created at different times. The 11 macaronic motets were probably copied in Paris around 1270 from sources dating to the first half of the 13th century. As you can see, this is a highly embellished manuscript created with a lot of care. You're looking at the first 2 pages of the first macaronic motet, which I'll use as an example. Here's how you compose a macaronic motet. You start with a small piece of Gregorian chant with a text that's relevant to the point you want to make. In this case, the text is about rejoicing. You lift the music out of the chant and write it down in a repeating rhythmic pattern called a rhythmic mode. This becomes the tenor at the bottom of this photo. Then you write a poem in Latin to the Virgin Mary and set it to music with a range about 1/4 higher than the tenor. Each syllable can have its own musical note, but the ones you want to emphasize can have a few more notes. You want to have as many pure intervals as possible between this voice and the tenor, perfect fourths, perfect fifths, and octaves. Finally, you write your top voice, a French love poem about seeing a beautiful woman in April. Sadly, she's not available. It's Marion waiting for Robin. The range of this voice will be the same as the middle one. There are more and faster musical notes for more words in the top voice. The notes create as many perfect intervals as possible with the other two voices. And now your motet is done. It most likely would be sung with one male voice per part. With each voice singing a different text in a different language so close together in pitch, it's impossible to understand the voices separately. Instead, the listener would hear it as a complex yet satisfying musical piece, rejoicing in love both earthly and divine. So here's how I see the parts of Macaronic motets as analogous to Battenburg cake. The middle and top lines start with roughly the same available musical notes, like a cake batter. They're separated out into two distinct melodies, like batter separated into bowls. One melody gets the Latin text, like lemon flavor. The other gets the French text, like raspberry syrup. The harmony of the perfect intervals holds the musical lines together like the apricot glaze holds the cake together. The apricot glaze adds a delicious flavor to the overall cake, while the perfect intervals add a pleasing sound to the motet. The tenor is the foundation of the motet, as the almond paste is the foundation of the cake. We're always being urged to simplify, but sometimes complex things are better. I hope that you'll be able to experience Battenburg cake and macaronic motets for yourself. You'll need to seek them out, but they'll be worth the hunt. In this case, you really can have your cake and sing it too. Thank you.